Hi, it's Mr. Tush over at Global, and this one's going to be a longer video. We'll show you how to create a soundboard app with three sounds, and the theme I've chosen is The Wizard of Oz. So I'm going to go get three sounds and three images, put all my components in place, and let's see what we come up with. Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and look at the three images that I want to get. I'm a big Wizard of Oz fan, so I'm going to get three images. One of them is going to be Wicked Witch. Once I type in Wicked Witch, I get a lot of classic images, but you have to be careful to use things in copyrighted form. So I go over to non-commercial use, and now I'm left with the images that I'm allowed to use legally. It may take a little more scanning to find one, but I found this nice one here on Flickr. It's actually a wax representation of the Wicked Witch. It'll do perfectly well for my app. So I'm going to do Save Image As, call it Wicked Witch, and make sure it's a JPEG, and download it. So that's the first image I'm going to put in. And there's a little trick for you. I've already got this label for non-commercial use. Go ahead and make the search for Glinda. And Glinda is my second character I'm going to bring in. We're going to use this image right here. And we're going to save the image as, and we're just going to throw this in there and call it Glinda. Remember, we often get download there, but we're going to change it to Glinda. And then we are going to go in here. We're going to pull in the ruby slippers. And we're going to go get those the ruby slippers off of one of these images. It is labeled for non-commercial use. So we'll pick our best one, and I'm going to go with these right here. And I'm going to do Save Image As. We're going to call it Ruby Slippers. And in she goes. Now, to match that, I'm going to want three sounds. Soundboard.com is a particularly good site as long as you persevere a little bit. You get a free account and you want to use their free sounds. But I will go ahead and do a search for Wizard of Oz, and I'll come up with a soundboard for the Wizard of Oz. Now, it will force me to log in. I'll have to create an account and be logged in. But once I do, you're going to find that it has some really nice soundboards that are created by lots and lots of people. And you'll also find that it's got something called a personal license. When you see that personal license, the personal license is legitimate to be used for school events. I'll click on the Wizard of Oz soundboard, and here are all the cool sounds that I want to use. Well, I'm going to choose three. One is the classic for the Ruby Slippers. Toto? That's Toto. I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. You go down here to this download link. Not exactly the most intuitive thing that they show you, but then it will bring you down to here, and you have to go to download sound. Once you do that, there's the MP3 file. I'm making sure it's an MP3 audio. Next, I'm going to go back, because I have to go back to these sounds, and we'll pick up the classic witch sound, and we'll bring that up. And I have downloaded my witch sound. And last, we need the Glinda sound. And this particular soundboard is neat. It has a little snippet of wherever you are, come out wherever you are, which Glinda sings in the musical. So go over, we'll grab that sound, and now we've got all three of our sounds and all three of our images. Now what do I need? Let's think it through. I need three buttons, and I'm using three sounds, so I'm going to need three players. I'll throw in my three buttons. 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to bring in my three players. Media drawer. Player 1, player 2, and player 3. Now, because I want to be a good computer programmer, I'm going to rename the first one Button Slippers. Then the second one I'm going to call Button Glinda. And the third one I'm going to call Button WW. And then I'm going to match them up. So player 1 is going to be player Slippers. Then we're going to do player 2 It's going to be player out. And number 3, we're going to call this one player which. You'll notice if I put spaces in here, unlike naming the files, it will actually put the underscore in for you. You can't have spaces in any of your names, but it will put them in for you. Now these buttons are all over the place here. The first thing I'm going to want to do is center them. Go over to the screen, and I tell it to align everything centered. So I'll align everything in the center. That's great. And then the second thing that's going to happen is when I add these 3 images to these buttons, they're going to be all over the place. Watch what happens. I want to add my images. Oh, wait, I have nothing in my media drawer. So let me go over here, and this is going to be a little bit tedious, but we're going to go over to my downloads folder. When I go over to my downloads folder, I'm going to bring in Glinda, and then I'm going to have to, and you have to do these one at a time. I know that's a little bit tedious, but one of the things that App Inventor requires you to do is you have to download all of these one at a time. So I'm going to go over to text for button 1. I really want my number 1 button to be the Ruby Slippers. So I'm going to go over to text for button 1. And for its image, a lot of people try clicking in here, and all you're going to do is get the option to delete things. Click in your button, go over to Properties. Click in the slippers. So put slippers in that first one. Boom. OK. Take a second. It will pop open. There we go. Then button Glinda. We're going to want Glinda. Go over the image. And where is Glinda? Here we go. Glinda JPEG. Make sure I'm bringing in the picture. It's going to be really big. It's not too bad, actually. And then we're going to go over to button 3. And of course, button 3 is button Wicked Witch, so we need to find a picture of the Wicked Witch. And how cool is she? Now, that's definitely not useful because it's all over and it's off the screen. So we're going to want to put these 2 guys side by side. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to go over to the layout drawer. And I'm going to do a horizontal arrangement. I'm going to throw it right in here. As soon as I throw Glinda in here, that's going to be there. And I'm going to throw the witch into there. Wow, she's big. So that's got to be there. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the horizontal arrangement to change the width to something called fill parent. Once I do, it's going to force them to at least somewhat of a smaller size. And then the next thing I'm going to do is tell this one's width to fill the parent. And this one's width to fill the parent. And that will, to an extent, force them into smaller sizes. Well, they're all looking a little bit squat, so we're going to change her height to a standard 150 pixels. That's going to shrink her quite a bit. Click OK. Now she's much more reasonable. And then to make it even, I'm going to make sure Glinda is also 150 pixels. That way they come out the same size. Also going to make sure that the horizontal arrangement is centered. So now it's centered on the page. Now what I have not done is I have not connected anything to anything. I've just told them what pictures to play. And oh, look at all the ugly text. Don't forget to take out the text for each of your buttons, just so they're not ugly. You don't need text. There's nothing functionally wrong, but who wants an ugly app? Quality does matter if you want people to use your app. So now I've got all these going, and I haven't told the players to play anything. The slippers, well, we've decided that the slippers are going to be Toto. I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. And then come out wherever you are. That's going to be the come out wherever you are song. And then under the witch, we're going to go over to the I'll Get You Wicked Witch MP3 file. Now, all of that is programmed, and it will do absolutely nothing. Why? Over in blocks. I have nothing programmed. What I need to do is I need to program each button. So when the button for the slippers is clicked, I'm going to want it to be a toggle. So I'm going to have it do an if-then statement. Grab if-then, and I'm going to grab this little mutator. This mutator allows us to change it if-then to an if-then-else and an if-then-else-if. Well, for this, we're going to need an if-then-else. So I'm sticking it in there, and now I have my if-then-else statement. What I want it to do is I want this to look at the player for the slippers. So I'm going to go over to player slippers. And I'm going to say, well, if the player, the slippers, is playing, if it's playing, then I'm going to want it to pause the player. And I'm going to pick pause, not stop. Stop means when I start, it goes back to the beginning. Pause means when I start it, it's going to pick it up where it left off. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, well, if it's playing, then stop playing it. Otherwise, start playing it. So that's what it's going to do. I'm going to stick all of this under here. Now, so far, so good. I could hand program this for everything else, but I don't want to. So I'm going to go over here and duplicate the whole thing. Notice these X's. These X's are saying your program's about to crash. And of course, it's saying that because we've got two controls over one button. So I'm going to change this to Glinda, change this to come out, change this to come out, and change this to come out. I've now programmed for Glinda. And then I'm going to duplicate it again. Again, it's going to crash, but now I'm going to program it for the Wicked Witch. And program witch, player witch, player witch, player witch. Not quite done, because you know what will happen. If I play it, they'll all play over each other, and they'll play all at the same time. So the first thing I want to do is I want to tell it that when this Button Slippers is playing, turn off the witch and turn off Glinda. So I'm going to cut out the player witch. So player witch, we're going to click stop, and we're going to duplicate that, because I'm going to say when the slippers are playing, tell the player witch to stop, and then tell the player slippers to, play the witch and come out to stop. So when the slippers is played, witch and come out, wherever you are, stop. I'm going to go ahead and call these players again. Copy, duplicate, and throw it here, and duplicate it, and throw it here. So Glinda wants to stop the witch and the slippers, and then I'll duplicate. And the witch is going to want to stop the slippers, and the witch is going to want to stop, come out, wherever you are. Now, when I call up the emulator, so here's the app loaded into the emulator. Let's see what it does.
Toto?
You'll see it pauses.
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. Come out, pretty. I'll get you. Toto?
And as you can see, it rotates between the three images perfectly. That's the minimum you need to do to get the soundboard app running. And nobody gets to do the Wizard of Oz, but at least you know how the logic works. Hope it helped. Thanks for watching.